Hey, what's up, guys? It's Shoin. I'm editing Very Important Japanese News, episode 3 right now. And this week we had some problems where I recorded the video and QuickTime just crashed and the footage is useless. Maybe recording 40 minutes of HD data on QuickTime is not the best idea. Um, but luckily, I was screen recording my desktop the whole time to kind of share what I was scrolling through. So this week's episode will look like will be very important Japanese news, except if it was streamed on my desktop. So you'll literally just see my desktop and what I was scrolling through, and me on a tiny screen with like meh audio. So enjoy.
First news, Valentine's Day happened in Japan. Now, if you don't know how Valentine's Day works in Japan, it's a little different. The girl gives chocolates to the guy, or significant other, but oftentimes it's the girl giving to the guy. And on March 14th, which is White Day, the guy gives a gift back to the girl, usually chocolates or whatnot. Now, Valentine's Day isn't just for lovers, though. Girls often give chocolates to family or friends or coworkers. Now, Korea takes things one step further, where April 14th, they have Black Day. And Black Day is for people who never received a chocolate on February 14th or March 14th. And it's just for loners, and they go into hiding and they just eat jjajangmyeon, which is black bean noodles, and, and you blacken your teeth, hence Black Day. Now, what's the newsworthy part of Valentine's Day this year? Well, there's a survey asked to Tokyo women for whom they'll be buying Valentine's Day chocolate for, and 61% answered me. It's like, chocolates are for me. So I guess many people are using this holiday to kind of say good job to themselves and give themselves chocolate, which is good self-love. But this survey makes it sound like, oh, screw my family, screw my loved ones, my friends, chocolate, chocolate for me. Next news, speaking of chocolate, Komeda Coffee's Godiva chocolate collab looks like a giant piece of turd. Okay, now, so let's check out what that means. So, famous chocolate brand Godiva partnered with pretty famous cafe franchise Komeda Coffee, and people are saying that the advertisement looks very different from reality. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that looks pretty bad. Okay, so now the advertisement looks fine. We could agree that, you can make an argument that it looks turdish, but overall, good looking dessert. That is a turd. That is 100% a turd. You could show that to a 5-year-old, and the 5-year-old be like, Mommy, what the is this? That's literally a piece of turd with a cherry on top. Why do they have to make it so soft serve? Like, it makes it look like a turd that's just about to become diarrhea. There's another one. Okay, that looks fine. That looks awful. Imagine you're at a cafe and then it's Valentine's Day and you want to impress your date, and so you ordered the Godiva soft serve ice cream cafe latte, and the staff brings you this. It brings your girlfriend this. And your girlfriend's like, oh, so you're into that kind of play, huh? Message received. Well, it is Valentine's Day, so I can make an exception. Apparently, it's really depending on the store how bad it gets. So some stores you can get good quality, some stores you can get just a soft-served piece of turd. Now, speaking of turds, if you don't know, there's a Unko museum in Odaiba, and the Unko museum is basically like Team Lab if it was all centered around turds. Wow, this is just magnificent. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Pose, girl, pose. This is really what Team Lab was missing. Just a hint of poo. Oh, here's the guy who made it. A 45-year-old dude. Okay. So here's the guy who made it. And the ballsy part is that this exhibition is at the exact same station that Team Lab is in. You know, this guy had a dream. This guy had a vision. You know, he's probably young and he told his dad, like, oh, you know what, Dad? I'm gonna be an artist and I'm gonna have my own museum. And maybe his dad was like, man, you ain't gonna make shit. And boy, was he wrong. Look at me now, Father. I did make shit. And I made a whole museum. And it's colorful and bright. And kids and adults alike come to gasp at the magnificence of my shit. Next news, Japanese police tell us how to properly dispose of surgical masks. Now, this is in relation to the coronavirus. And just when you thought that you've lived in Japan long enough to understand their meticulously complicated trash system, I was like, oh, this is burnable, this is non-burnable, this is cans, this is plastic, this is glass, this is cardboard day. You thought you mastered it all? Wrong. Wrong. The police are here to tell you that you need to wrap your used surgical masks in plastic. Some people say that this is because the police want you to not spread the virus through your trash and through like trash people. But actually, this is to preserve the virus within the plastic bag so that when the turtles in Tokyo Bay gnaw into it, they get a fresh batch of corona right in their face, you know, just Next news. Famous Japanese singer was caught for drugs this week. Now, you probably don't know him. There's a guy named Makihara Noriyuki, also known as Maki. He's written some of the most famous songs in Japan. And he was caught using the drug Rush, and now the police have custody of him. Now, when I saw this news, I thought, what is Rush? I've never heard of that drug before. So, let's look into it. And so Rush is kind of a product name of a nitrate, which often in America is called poppers. And many times, so it's legal in the US. Rush is legal in the US. It's just illegal in Japan. And it is used for practical purposes to facilitate anal by increasing blood flow and relaxing sphincter muscles. Now, Maki has had rumors that he is gay, and now it's more or less confirmed because of the recent pictures of who he was living with, apparently. Which, you know, more power to him. Now, the problem I have with this news is that I would understand if, you know, there's problems with celebrities doing heavy drugs like crystal meth or something, or heroin. But this is a drug that's legal in many countries. It doesn't have, which means it's not the worst, but Japan's still treating it like he did the worst thing ever. And that's kind of bullshit. I mean, you could buy this stuff in gas stations in America. Just because Japan was like, oh, no, making it a huge ordeal is not I kind of feel bad for the guy. If you want to relax your sphincters and have some fun, go for it. You're not harming anybody. But Japan's very careful with drugs. Getting caught with the drugs is socially a big deal, even though as a criminal charge it's not that bad. You'll probably get released oftentimes. And so let's talk a little about drugs in Japan. The easiest one to look at is cannabis. Cannabis is referred to as taima, and it's been used throughout Japanese culture until very recently, until the 1900s. 1917-ish, they started to regulate a little, so only medicinal purposes allowed. But most drugs became illegal in Japan actually in 1948 after World War II, where America kind of took over, and a lot of American laws were kind of instilled into Japan, one of which was drug laws. So they basically carbon copied American drug laws into Japan. And that's how most things got illegal. So Japan's never really thought about drugs on their own too much until recent history. Now, something else that a lot of people don't know is Japan invented crystal meth. You could go to Wikipedia, search crystal meth, search for Japan. The Japanese government invented the crystallized version of crystal meth to give it to their soldiers so that they can be energized this whole time. And so in Japan, this became a product known as hiropon, which sounds adorable for crystal meth. Hiropon sounds like a terrible cringe nickname for hiro. At the time, the Japanese government didn't know the side effects of crystal meth and just saw the positives, which was you become less tired, you don't sleep, and more motivation. Well, yeah, it's meth. So what we didn't know about soldiers in World War II was that many Japanese soldiers were just taking meth and be like, yeah, let's do this, let's do this. Let's do this. And so even after World War II, a lot of people enjoyed hiropon, so they kept taking it, which is why the second most used drug in Japan to this day is still crystal meth, which is crazy. Most other countries are like, oh, weed, you know, a little maybe, ecstasy, and then, you know, and then it gets to the heroin and the crack cocaine and crystal meth. But Japan's number one is weed and then just meth. Meth. Second most popular. Now, do I think Japan's a little strict on drugs? Yeah, I do. The only legal drug basically in Japan is alcohol and cigarettes. But also, honestly, I'm kind of amazed by the execution by the Japanese police and government on ridding Japan of all drugs. 99% of Japanese people, if not even more, have never used drugs or even seen drugs. And the punishment's not super strict here, like in Indonesia and Singapore, where worst punishment is death. So I'm kind of conflicted, because on one hand, I think there's many drugs that Japanese people can benefit from for leisure, but on the other hand, I do think that those will become kind of gateways to heavier drugs, because gateway drugs is a thing, and having a country completely void of drugs is pretty impressive. And I'm not sure if the leisure of drugs is worth ruining a country that has no drugs. It's worked out well for them, honestly. Having said that, it's so funny because in Japan, you know, drugs that are gray so that they're legal, they're called like goho doragu or dappo doragu, which means like legally allowed but dangerous drugs. When I tell my Japanese friends that alcohol is a goho doragu, it's illegal but still a drug, they're like, no, it's not a drug. Alcohol is not a drug. And I tell them that actually there's only two types of drugs in this world where if you're addicted, you're not allowed to stop by yourself. You need to do it with a doctor, otherwise you can die. And one is heroin and the other is alcohol. So I can go into the konbini and buy enough alcohol to kill myself and nobody would bat an eye. But this singer grabs a drink that makes your sphincter a little loose and everyone loses their minds. And it's just like, come on, give him a break. He's just trying to have fun. Next news. Gundam otakus refuse to leave a game center that's on fire. Okay, let's check it out. All of them are just vibing. They can't lose. They can't afford to lose. Some things are more important than life, and Gundam is one of them. And in otaku-related news, let's check out what the train otakus are up to. So to set this up, the train otakus are getting ready to take a picture of a rare train that's passing by. Wow, you rarely ever encounter anyone yelling at anyone in this country, and here you have a bunch of people yelling at a car just for passing by. Why would you drive on this path that you're legally allowed to drive on? Now you saw the Gundam otakus, you saw the train otakus. Clearly, otakus are a new radical breed of Japanese society. They get angry quickly, unlike the rest of Japanese society. They're practicing virtual simulations of mech suit warfare. They're immune to fires. And you might be saying, oh, but Shoin, train otakus and Gundam otakus are not even the same groups of people. Are you sure? Are you sure? Aren't both obsessed with machinery? Isn't conducting a train essentially the same as operating a mecha on rails? For the last news, I want to go over the restaurant chain Ikinari Steak. Now, if you don't know what Ikinari Steak is, it literally means suddenly steak, which makes it seem like you go in there and you just go in and just hit you with the steak, and it's like, bam, here's your steak, eat it. And you're like, I didn't even see the size or how I want it to be cooked. You're gonna eat it raw, 500 grams. Here's a bucket of coleslaw too. Enjoy it. But that's not how it is. It's just like a steak chain. You can kind of pop in and eat it and get out really quickly. So they're like, hey, what if we made steaks a little cheaper? Now, they were up and coming like a couple years ago, 3-4 years ago. But last year, their profits went down 98.2% compared to the last year. And there's a couple reasons. One, because steak's not that good. It's not that cheap. And also, the company is kind of cultish, and people realized that and like didn't want to go anymore. So there was a TV show that was trying to cover, it's like, oh, what's the secret to Ikinari Steak's success? And they went into the company and saw something crazy. So apparently in the morning, they have a morning assembly, which is fine. Everyone gets together. And the CEO, who is clearly insane, just says, all right, numbers. And 1, 2, 3. Everyone starts counting up, right? And then he's like, oh, do it again. Number 2 was too slow. Until they get the right rhythm of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have to keep doing it, which is clearly some sick and twisted game. And even when all of the franchisee owners are assembled from all over Japan, they do this. They have to count up to like 100 something. And look how sad they are. Look how degraded. Look how degraded their faces are while having to count. They're like, oh my God, I have to stand here and count in front of live television like some child. And then once the counting's over, the CEO's like, hey, good, let's start. And when asked why he does this, was there a plan? He says there is no plan. And when he was asked, is it just because it feels good? He just laughs. Reading that made me never want to go there again. And that's not all. That news got out and, their profitability tanked. And then the CEO took this weird decision of handwriting a letter and putting it in front of all of the restaurants, like right in front of the door. And everyone was talking about it because it was just the weirdest message. And it says like, a letter from the CEO. We're all working here, highly energetic and very happy. We are one of the cheapest steak places, and we wanted to make steak cheap so everyone can enjoy steak. But we are noticing that many people are not coming to the store anymore. And this will mean that we'll have to close many of the shops soon. And we feel really bad for our employees. So please have the guts to open the door and have your amazing first experience. And people are like, oh, this is just creepy. This is creepy. It's like, imagine if in front of the Apple store, Tim Cook had a personal message like, oh, I see that you guys haven't been buying the iPhones, but we had a better one, so you should man up and come to our shop. And it's just like, oh, okay. Thanks for the essay. Yeah, for any of you, restaurant owners out there, don't write a short story in front of the store. It makes you look like a crazy person.
Yeah, so that was this week's episode. Despite kind of what happened to the footage, I kind of think it ended up being unintentionally hilarious. So I might kind of consider my format from now on. But thanks for watching again. If you like this channel, please like and subscribe. And if there's anyone who, amongst your friends, who you think want to get deeper into Japanese culture, definitely share it to them. And if you have any ideas of what you want me to cover, just let me know. I'm happy to check it out, either on Twitter or YouTube comments. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week. Peace out.